Listen to the following talk.
A son searching for the mother who abandoned us due to poverty. Now that my son is nearing adulthood, he has questions about his biological mother. I married my wife when I was 28 and she was 24. Back then, we were struggling because our jobs weren't stable, and neither of our families had enough money to help us start a business, so we had to do everything on our own. We had known and loved each other for 2 years before getting married, after meeting at an industry seminar. 1 year after our wedding, we welcomed our first son. My wife and I were overjoyed that both mother and baby were healthy. I took on more work, spending nearly every day of the week out on the road. My wife offered to work part-time to help, but I dismissed the idea, telling her that caring for our child was already exhausting, perhaps even more so than my work, so I would bear the burden for both of us. Though my income increased slightly, my health began to deteriorate because I hadn't been strong since childhood. Still, I pushed through, thinking that as long as I was young and had the strength, I should work hard to give my wife and child a better life. Then, an accident at work left me injured, reducing my physical capacity by 20%, leaving me fit only for light or desk work. My income significantly dropped after that. My wife then got a job selling goods at a private company nearby, which offered flexible hours and decent pay. Over the next 2 years, I enrolled in a formal programming course, completed it, and got a job through my instructor's recommendation. I left my previous job behind and focused entirely on my new work. During this period, I relied on my parents to help care for my son while I studied and took out a small loan to cover school expenses. Most of the money I earned during that time went to my wife, while the rest paid off my bank loan. I still remember the day my wife handed me the divorce papers. It was a stifling summer night, the oppressive heat filling our tiny rented apartment with its tin roof. The old table fan rattled noisily, adding to the unbearable discomfort my wife must have felt. She chose to leave when our son was just over 2 years old. She didn't take anything with her. There wasn't much to split anyway, and she said I should raise our son because he was the family's eldest male heir. My love for her extended beyond mere romance, so I believed separating was best for her. She deserved happiness, which she couldn't have if she stayed with a husband whose physical abilities had been reduced and whose future was uncertain. I decided to sell everything we had in our home, gathering around 50 million VNDs, and gave it to her as travel expenses. I took our son back to my parents' house in the countryside, a few hours' drive from the city, and vowed to live on to raise him. My son has grown older now, is well behaved, and very respectful, largely thanks to my parents' guidance. After the divorce, I buried myself in work at a software company for 5 years, and then transitioned to freelancing on projects for foreign companies. 3 years ago, through some good fortune, my parents, son, and I were sponsored by the corporation I worked with to settle in a country known for its excellent education system and abundant opportunities for personal growth. Due to the nature of my projects, I sometimes couldn't see my son for a week or two. But other times, I could take a whole month off to travel with him once a project was completed. My son has a natural aptitude for logical thinking like me, so I've been introducing him to the world of programming through game development. He knows that his parents divorced, and he accepted it calmly, partly because many of his classmates come from similar family situations, and partly because I've been open with him. Our current life is not luxurious, but it's certainly comfortable for a family spanning 3 generations. As for my ex-wife, I don't have much direct information about her. Since she left, she's only visited our son 3 times before we emigrated. Recently, through fragments of news from mutual friends, I've asked everyone not to talk about my ex-wife to me and vice versa. I learned that after our divorce, she remarried one of our university friends. This man comes from a wealthy family with several rental properties. However, after they had a child together, her marriage began to fall apart due to her husband's unfaithfulness. Now, they are separated, and she is living with their daughter. Some of my friends have suggested that I reconnect with my ex-wife to see how she's doing. After all, we still share a son, and as a man, they say, there's no harm in being noble. Also, if she's facing any difficulties, I should at least know about them, whether I choose to help or not. These past few days, I feel like I've been watching an old movie of my life from years ago. I can't forget the nights I cradled my son in my arms as he cried inconsolably for his mother, while I could do nothing but hum some dull lullabies. Now that he's almost grown, my son has been asking questions about his biological mother. I'm truly torn. I don't want him to know the full truth about our divorce because I've always told him that his mother made a very difficult choice when she left us. Part of me, when my son says he wants to go back to Vietnam to find his mother, wants to tell him not to put himself through that pain, like I did, but another part of me wants him to know who she is, what she's like, and why things turned out the way they did. I hope you can give me some advice on how to talk to my son so he can understand and handle his emotions if he meets his mother.
This content is just an example for learning English. Thank you for watching. How do you feel about this video? Please leave a comment below.